All right, everybody, welcome back. Good afternoon. Day two of the combine is going on right now. Monitoring that, definitely keeping track of that. We'll have a video probably sometime tonight talking about some of the notable things that happened, some of the highlights, the winners, the losers. You guys know the drill. So definitely stay tuned for that. But while we're waiting, I want to talk a little bit more about this upcoming free agency period because there's one aspect to the upcoming free agency period that I haven't talked about that much, but I think we need to go into it a little bit because it does shape things significantly for every team. The Seahawks, of course, part of that, but every team. And we're talking about guys that are going to be released. And there are going to be plenty of guys that get released over the next couple months. Teams are going to realize, hey, we can't afford this player. The team and player will try to negotiate on a new deal. If they can't get to a common ground, then a release typically happens. All right, guys, before we go any further into the video, I want to take a minute to tell you guys about my friends over at Sleeper. Sleeper is a one-stop shop for all your sports needs. Download the app to your phone. You can celebrate and chat about sports in real time with other users. You can get scores, news, and alerts with blazing fast speed. And you can play in daily fantasy leagues and win real money on picks contests. So enjoy sports together. Download Sleeper today, and don't forget to use my promo code SBN for up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Plus, they currently have a free $20 entry, no deposit required, just make an account. Terms and conditions do apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 25 states and growing. So check out Sleeper and have fun with sports this year. Right. So sometimes these guys will get traded instead of released, so the team can at least get something back. But quite often, if other teams know the player's going to get released, they don't bother trading anything for them. And quite frequently, even if there is a trade, it ends up being a very, very low value asset. And the team just kind of feels lucky they got anything. It's typically not like a big trade. So I wanted to take a look at some of these guys here that Spotrac has listed as candidates for release this offseason. Really cool feature Spotrac's doing this year. I don't think they did it in previous years, but basically this is just kind of a rundown of guys who might make some sense to hit the market. And here's the thing. If a player is released and then gets signed by another team, they do not factor into compensatory pick conversations. So that's really good. I think that because the Seahawks are likely to lose so many valuable players this offseason, they are probably thinking about the compensatory game pretty heavily. So that matters. Okay. So let's look at a few positions here, just try to size things up and see if there's anything that's interesting to us. Running back, there are a lot of names. There are a lot of well-known players. Unfortunately, I don't know if I'm really into any of them specifically. Alvin Kamara's probably the top dog here. By the way, the Saints barely save any money on a typical release, so it would have to be post June 1st. So I don't even know if they would bother doing that. They might just keep him around for old time's sake because the contract kind of almost demands it. But at 31 years old, I certainly wouldn't trust him to be a lead back, and the cliff is coming anytime. In fact, arguably, it's already here. Aaron Jones could be a release candidate this offseason. He's 32, doesn't seem to have a lot left. Um, Maybe he could be part of like a three-headed backfield monster, but it's tough. Joe Mixon coming off a pretty big injury not that long ago, 30 years old now, not super into this one. I think there's a very good chance he gets released, but you'd definitely be just trying to scrape off the last little bit of good football he has left in him. James Conner, I suspect his career is over. If it's not, it's got very little left, so no. Tony Pollard, maybe Tony Pollard. That one, he's certainly not on Ken Walker's level, but I do think Tony Pollard could be a lead back in a tandem of running backs. That one might be okay. It kind of depends on the price. David Montgomery would be kind of nice as a replacement for Charbonnet. but I don't know if you want to commit multi-year to him. And Devin Singletary, I don't know too much about that one. I think he could be part of a good backfield, but I don't know if you could lean on him to be like even a Ken Walker level of lead back. So there are a couple of interesting names here, but it is a little bit tough. The top guys are mostly guys who I think have very little left in them. Pollard and Montgomery are the most interesting to me, and it just depends on the price. So that's running back. Wide receiver, you do see Cooper Kupp here, by the way, but I don't think Cooper Kupp is getting released no matter what. The only thing that might happen at this point is that he retires. There are some interesting names here. I don't know if they're necessarily what the Seahawks are looking for. I think that if the Seahawks are going to get a receiver, it's because they lost Shaheed. If you lose Shaheed, it's probably a deep threat that you're looking for, a downfield threat. And the only guy I see here who might be kind of like that is Jalen Hyatt, and he has never been anything in the NFL. Like Jalen Hyatt being a good player in the NFL is completely hypothetical. He's done basically nothing in his career to my knowledge. So if he is released, okay, you could go get him for probably super cheap, but I don't think you would expect much of him. And these other guys, Calvin Ridley, probably a little too much. Darnell Mooney, that's okay, but I don't know if I really want to do it. Ayuk would be funny, but no. Curtis Samuel, and maybe Curtis Samuel. That's not too bad actually, but I don't know. The receiver thing is just tough for me. If you can't get a speedster downfield threat guy, I'm not super into anything. And these guys, other than maybe Jalen Hyatt, don't fit. Center, there's one center listed here. This one's actually interesting though. Elgton Jenkins. Not necessarily because of center, although maybe he'd be a better center than Sundell, but Elgton Jenkins is a guy who's played all over the offensive line in his career. So if he gets released and you can sign him for a reasonable cost, not only are you getting somebody who might be able to start at center, but you're getting somebody who can play other positions as well. So Jenkins, and by the way, I believe, if I recall correctly, John Benton coached him for a little bit at one point, but I believe that Jenkins is somebody that could provide value all over your offensive line. So that one's actually not too bad. If he shakes free, you can at least kick the tires. All right, so that's the offense. Those are the guys who jump out to me. Let's go over to the defense here. Unfortunately, the edge rusher list is pretty darn bad. And the top name here is actually a Seahawk, Nwosu, who I do think could get released, but obviously it's not like we would release him and then pick him up and think we found anything good. The only two names here are Nichols with the Cardinals and Bud Dupree with the Chargers at 33 years old. There's not much there that is going to do anything for me. So it's a good free agency crop of edge rushers. I've been over it before. I've made a whole bunch of videos about it, but it doesn't look like it's going to get added to with this group of guys. So nothing there. Cornerback is a little bit better. There are some interesting cornerbacks here. Now, Marlon Humphrey it's already been reported that Humphrey is not going to be a cap casualty this offseason. I don't really know why, with the season he just had and the fact that the whole fan base of Baltimore hates him and the fact that they really need to find a way to shave some money off of their cap. I don't know why they would keep him, but that one's obviously interesting to the Seahawks. I think there's a lot of interest in bringing him here for a year. So we'll see if they blink. We'll see if they change their mind. We'll see if the rumors are just rumors and they don't have a basis in reality. But Marlon Humphrey is a guy I think we will go after aggressively if made available. L'Jarius Sneed is also very interesting. If the Titans let him go, which I could see happening, I think there's going to be a pretty big market for him. And I think that a team like the Seahawks could definitely be involved there. Marshawn Lattimore, also interesting at 30 years old because the Commanders can release him with zero dead money. And if they do that, maybe Lattimore is at the point in his career because he's made a good amount of money in his NFL career that he just wants to go somewhere where he can win. Christian Fulton is actually pretty appealing as well. I think he's a decent corner. Pretty much everybody on this list, I think, at least carries some degree of interest, except for maybe Bunting because he's a nickel corner. Um, Deonte Banks would be a nice reclamation project. He's only 25. And I know he hasn't been good so far, but there are a lot of reasons why that might be that don't have anything to do with Banks as a player. So that's a talented guy. That's a former, I believe, first round pick. So there are some very interesting names here. If Humphrey is off the market as a potential candidate, then that's unfortunate because I do think we are looking at him as a potential Woolen replacement for 2026. But pretty much anybody here except for Bunting, I think, would at least be worth kicking the tires on. All right. So I'll see you guys later. Go Hawks. Those are the release candidates across the NFL. And there are a few guys who I think could sweeten this free agency crop a little bit. And I'll say it again. You sign these guys, you play the comp game, and there's an opportunity for you to really kind of strike it big without having to worry about giving up comp picks down the line.